All right, we are now on the air live. So good. We're gonna, if anybody's popping in, we will be just a little bit before we start. We want to wait till we get a little bit of people populating in here. And I have to keep a look on mine to see if I can get that video link. So I said the person hosting it always gets it last. And then we'll do some introductions and we'll have some fun.
Oh yeah, lots and lots of fun.
For whoever thinks numbers and charts are fun, that is, right?
Well, I mean, 12 people apparently did on
Oh,
my
good.
YouTube channel. I'm
More
pretty
will
happy
come.
about that.
I think more will come too, without a doubt. Excellent. That's always good to hear.
I don't really have super big aspirations. I mean, it was a goal that I'd make it onto a live stream, but that already happened, so I need to shoot for bigger things.
Fair enough. So, okay, mine popped up now. When you said your goal is to shoot for a live stream, you said this is your first, so that's your goal, right? You hit that one.
Yeah, so yeah, really quick.
Good.
A little too quick.
You weren't ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, I did a video a week for a month, and then it was those Twitter pie charts. Once I started including those, everyone got in on it.
Well, you did supply some excellent data, and I've just now been able to get to see who's in the chat. So we see a lot of people there. James Hayes, hello, nice to see you. Conservative Nerd, hello. Charles, hello. Donna, nice to see you. And she says, my milkshake bring all the boys to the yard. Nostalgic criticism, hello. Undead Quinn. All right, we've got a lot of people popping in. I'm also going to share this link really quick on Twitter before we get started. That way, if anybody else didn't get the message or missed it, they'll have easy access to the fun we're about to have or the terrible mistake I'm about to make, one or the other. I think it'll be the first one. I think it'll be lots of fun. All right, and I've now sent the link on Twitter, so make sure if nobody knows about it, let them know we are ready to roll. All right, so everyone, what I do is I see we have the PowerPoint slide. First of all, I would like to say thank you to my guest today, the Comic Chemist. He has a YouTube channel as well, and it's Comic Chemist, correct?
Comic Chemistry.
Comic Chemistry.
Yeah, Chemist was taken for some odd reason.
Oh, okay. So beware that's what it is. Later on after this, I'll make sure I include that link to his channel in the info bar down below. Okay, so that way we have that as well. I also want to thank him because he is the one that prepared all this data and all the slides. So everything you see here today, we have him to thank for his hard work.
Well, like I was telling you earlier, it is kind of fun to put all this stuff together and see how people like it or don't like it, how they respond to it.
Right. So let me ask you then. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but I want other people to get to know you a little bit and things. What made you think that, hey, I want to correlate all this data?
I don't really know where to start. So my father used to have a comic book store back when I was a kid, and then he started a different business, and then when me and my brother went to college, he reopened it to sell all of his old stuff. And I guess I saw an opportunity to better bond with my dad. So I was like, okay, let's start with what are valuable comics? And so I guess there's an app for that now, but I made this like Excel spreadsheet of everything Wikipedia said was a key comic in Marvel. And so there was that. Then I started buying comics from his store to support the family business, and then I got introduced to diversity in comics videos, that all those Carl Manverse videos were pretty hilarious. How he just uncut, uncensored roasts comics was pretty fun. And then I got onto Twitter, and then I saw that there were people that agreed with diversity in comics, and then there were some that didn't. And then I was thinking, well, I'd really like to get in on this action. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of numbers. What if what if I could figure out what if these comics are actually selling well and stuff like that? And I guess there was also like when you're running a comic store, you need to know like what are the comics to buy. So Comic-Con was a really great site for figuring out what the um, how many units of comics they make. So I hope that made some sense.
Oh, absolutely. And so we're going to be dealing with numbers here, looking at that and discussing things because and we have to be careful. One of the tough things about statistics is they're really only as good as the person analyzing them. And what I mean by that is you can twist statistics easily. You know, the old adage, and I'm not going to say it word for word because I don't like to swear, but there's lies, darn lies, and statistics.
Exactly.
And part of the goal is what you have to do is exhaust the possibilities. You want to be exhaustive. In other words, look at all the possibilities you could possibly think of that could be impacting the numbers and why they got there. Because it's very easy to automatically draw causation and think that has a correlation when maybe it's not the only factor or not even a factor at all.
Yes, and I try to be as unbiased or I try to be as honest as possible with the data. I try to let the data speak more than my own opinions or my own agendas.
And that's absolutely what you want to do. You know, and bravo to you to that. Because sometimes when you're collecting the data, it's not always coming out like you expected. You know, and that's one of the reasons you have to be very careful about data that has been paid for. It's paid research. When somebody's paying you because they want to have a particular outcome, well, that's your paycheck coming to support that outcome. So, it biases your information. And also the way that you present the information and the type of information you present might not always be painting it in the best light. For one example, was with the McDonald's incident, all pushing for $10 to $14 average, starting wage. And they used one of their data analysis that they used. They said, well, the average employee there is 20 something years old. Well, there's one of the fundamental problems. When you do data like that, you shouldn't be using average because average is greatly impacted by outliers, such as people of very high age, like retirees that just wanted to work part-time, or people that are a little younger than usual. They'll have a bigger sway on the data. So they were using average when really they should have been using mode, and that's what age occurred the most.
Yes.
So, yeah. And so it's really nice to have somebody else on here to be able to nerd out. So should we jump into the data? What do you guys think in the live chat? Should we start pulling up some numbers? And we'll try to address questions too, if we can, based on the information we have. Okay. How many people we got in here right now? Let me take a look.
Looks like about 25.
All right, 25 on a Friday night. Where's you guys' dates? Says the married man. All right, so first thing, whenever we pull up something too, they're gonna have you guys are gonna have a delay before you see it. So I've got my other monitor on so I can see when the numbers come up. So while they're waiting on seeing the numbers that are coming up, this slide number 2, you want me to explain what's on this slide? Oh, it's up now. They can see it.
So you did a video about how many what is it, buying power of the minimum wage and comic books throughout the years?
Right.
On Frugal Fridays on Englantine's channel, I believe.
Oh, okay. That was also on my channel too, the one that nobody watches.
Okay. I'll dig it up and.
Oh, it's the same video. It's okay. It doesn't matter which channel you watch on. It's all good by me. I don't care. I just have fun with it. Yeah, and that's one of the things I found historically. Back in the 60s, heck, even to the 70s, really comic books was much more of an easy buy of disposable income. So the amount of comics you could get per dollar, and I just based it on minimum wage. I'm not saying everyone made minimum wage, but it was a good, a basis to base everything on. And especially with disposable income. The less disposable income you have, the more frugal you are going to be in how you spend it and what you spend it on. And back when you didn't have to pay much and you could buy 11 comics for 1 hour of minimum wage work, you're probably willing to experiment more with different titles than you would today when you can't even buy 3. Do you think that
Yes,
holds true?
I think it holds true. And basically, what I did to the table that you presented on your channel and Englantine's channel, I added basically accounted for some inflation. Like the third column is the value of the $1961 relative to the year studied, and then the blue column is basically the minimum wage divided by that. So what a comic or what minimum wage you're earning compared to 1961, and then the orange column is the comic price in 1961 if those comics were being published then.
Okay. Now, notice at the bottom of the slide you added wages are 20% less.
Yes, compared to the $1.15 minimum wage, accounting for inflation in 2014's wage would be worth 92 cents, which is about 20% less than that.
Excellent. So the power of the dollar has decreased, is what we're saying. It doesn't get you as much comparative as what it used to.
Yes, that is
Boil it.
true.
And then another number that I didn't provide originally and that you did, and I found this quite fascinating. You put in comics are 400% more expensive.
Yes, 50 cents compared to 10 cents in 1961.
Now you think about that. That means your risk is quadrupled, to buying a book that you don't like. So, in my opinion, I'm told to zoom in. I will. My opinion on this, I'm gonna go down to that bottom part there. Well, if I zoom in too much, you won't be able to see the border very well. And I tried to do display the whole thing, but it doesn't. Oops, it doesn't seem to want to do that for some reason. On the video, it only displays it this way rather than this regular full page slide. I'll try it again though. I'll tell it to play and see if it presents it in a full page slide. Hopefully it will do that in a minute.
That is a little strange, but
Yeah,
we'll have to.
hopefully it will. But anyway, as I was segueing to, then with the cost being much more expensive, you're not willing to take as much risk. Of course, people are going to want to research those products more, which is why more people are looking at reviews and things. And it's one of my opinions why review sites are dangerous, like your CBR and things.
And like Rotten Tomatoes for movies.
Right, because let's be honest, in my opinion anyway, and this part's a little bit subjective, I think sites like CBR are really nothing more than an advertising arm for comic books.
Oh yes, for sure. They definitely have agendas. I don't know if there's any quid pro quos going on, but they definitely advertise some things more than others.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I found whenever I do play it like a slideshow, it just only wants to show the first slide. So I apologize for that, guys. So it's going to have to be a little small. You might have to zoom in on your own screen a little bit. I apologize for that, but otherwise it just doesn't want to effectively do that. I even minimize the stuff on the side of the bar to make it show a little bit better. Yeah, it is, quite fascinating to me, at least to me, because I find myself also doing that. I used to remember to pick up a comic book and the cover would tell you so much. Am I going to be interested in the story? And now, well, at least for a long time, the covers didn't seem to match what the story was too much. And I hear now it's starting to change back a little bit. The cover's giving us more information of what actually to expect.
Yes, yes.
All right, so since we just looked and we've seen the value and the cost of a comic book and how expensive it is, let's start moving on to some other points. For one is we are all nothing but a bunch of pixels, right?
Yes,
as Dan Slott said.
Yeah, I saw that live stream. I was a little appalled. I liked his explanation of how Spider-Man is like every one of us. And then he's like, well, I don't care about my critics because they're just little pixels, collections of pixels.
Right. I think that was universally, but almost the majority of people, and I'm speculating there when I say majority, but it seemed like that line really upset people. I don't care about little pixels on the screen at the end of the day a lot. And in my opinion, that's like classic warfare. You dehumanize your opponent, and then you can do whatever you want to them. So if you don't agree with Dan Slott, as well as other comic writers, they're going to dehumanize us, or you, or I, whoever it is they're disagreeing with, and then they can get away with calling you a homophobe, a Nazi, a racist, or whatever they feel like doing. And they feel it's okay to do it because you're less than a person.
Yes, it's the whole Nazi, racist, bigot, homophobe thing. Just now pixels.
Now, I was met with some discussion online. I don't know, maybe you've run into some of this as well. Where people said, "Oh, that doesn't impact comic book sales. You don't matter." Did you hear anything like that?
I mean, I see what happens on Twitter. There's definitely people who think it's not what he said wasn't a big deal. And I mean, but obviously people were pissed off that he doesn't have the right to say things like that because I mean, when you're dealing with anonymous people saying that your work is shit, excuse my language, um, this is it's kind of a natural response. I can see how he got to that line of thinking,
Sure.
but it's not professional.
I agree with you 100%. I will support people's right to say what they want, even if I don't agree with it, because you know that's the American way, if you will, and so I'm okay with that. But from my business perspective, you don't do that. Sure, the customer is always right is a theory, and even though we know they're not, but a mad customer is much more vocal than a happy customer in most cases. So that's another element we do have to consider is we hear all this negativity. How much is it really ramped up compared to what it really is?
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you can't dismiss it either because dismissing it would say it doesn't exist. And we have YouTube sites like I Love Comics with what probably 5,000, subscribers. We have Douglas Ernst's channel. He's probably around that number. We have Captain Cummings. I think he was over 14,000, if I'm correct.
Man,
We have Diversity in Comics. We have Just Some Guy, yourself, myself, Comics Division, Weaponized New Rage. Other channels are growing. And if you see those numbers growing, and a large part of what they're saying is they're dissatisfied with the market, that has to be something you listen to. In my opinion, anyway. From my business
I
perspective,
think
you're going to
so. I
listen.
mean, it's free surveys basically or
Right.
free feedback. All you have to do is search YouTube, search Google.
And this is where we see, I think, a big difference between somebody like Ethan Van Sciver and Mark Waid and how they're interacting with the customer base. You're going to see connections, and that's marketing 101. When you can make connections, you can gain brand loyalty. And somebody that's loyal to the brand is going to put up with a whole lot more before they ever leave. You'll put up with a couple issues bad of Spider-Man because you don't want that hole in your set, right? Because you're loyal at this point. But if you're a new reader, you've only read like 4 issues and now it's a stinker, you're more likely to quit.
Yeah, it's. I mean, so just a note, just a side note. If you like the character, I think you should. If you really like the character, buy their book, support the character. Um, but if what the author says is important, also, you should do what you want.
Right.
Just
So that separation can be challenging.
it is. It's very challenging, especially with the Moon Knight thing. I was really enjoying that book.
Oh, I did too. I thought it was really good. So it's a shame. Yeah, and see, that's one of those things. If it's something you really like, you're going to be more supportive of. If something you're on, it's an okay book, you're going to drop it a lot easier for that. Yeah, that does make it tough because I
Okay.
like to support creators that I like too, but I want it to be a good product that I like.
And there's something nice about getting retweeted by the creator or getting the favorite or the like or even a response on
Oh,
Twitter.
yeah.
Okay.
Unless those responses you're blocked, or you can eat my rear end.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on these next couple of slides, but going off of the whole pixel thing, it's not really an insult. And here's my argument.
Okay.
In pixels, there is a red component, a green component, and a blue component. And depending on how much of each or the current you drive through each LED in this example, you can get all sorts of different colors. So one pixel by itself is arguably three-dimensional. So there's a little bit of a dehumanization right there.
So you actually humanized a pixel.
Yes. Yes, I did.
So right back at you, Slott, I guess there. Even calling us pixels, there's still some three-dimensional humanization there. That's some nerding out.
Yeah. And if you move on to the next slide, I'll take it a little
I did.
bit
That's
further.
I'm waiting for it to show up on the screen. As I said, there's a delay. So buy your time there. But it should show up any second. There it goes.
And so things like images or our profile pictures, lots of pixels on a screen. There's an X and a Y component, how long the image is and how wide the image is. And depending if you consider color to be one dimension or three dimensions, you pixels, collections of pixels are either 3 or 5 dimensional. So you're not to be trifled with. Don't be discouraged by these kind of things.
No, that's awesome because pixels have colorizations, different sizes. They're diverse, just like us. That's a really interesting correlation to me. I like that.
Yeah, it comes from my really messed up mind.
No, I think that's fascinating. You took something that was meant to be a digital 1, 0, or 1, or a combination of zeros and ones, and really transferred into something a lot more deep, and that's cool. So now, as we've been hinting at a little bit on this next slide, it is the Marvel Milkshake crew. Now, I've been noted to saying it in a video that I think this was all blown out of proportion. I highly suspect that this was manufactured outrage by Marvel using its employees, henceforth Heather Antos, to drive attention to the books, because Marvel loves shock value marketing. They love this is shocking. You need to check this out.
What was it? The One More Day, Brand New Day things in Spider-Man, the Superior Spider-Man.
So let me get your thoughts on this too. Did you think this was manufactured outrage, or did you think there was legitimacy to it, or they just happened to take something and said, "Hey, let's stretch this out"? What's your thoughts on the milkshake in general?
I'm still trying to figure out what to make of it. I mean, I wasn't really in that. I wasn't paying attention that much this summer, so I saw the diversity in comics thing. So I took that side, and then I was doing some introspection, and I was like, wait, isn't this by itself just like a selfie? So I'm still like formulating my opinion on this, but yeah, it's starting to look like manufactured outrage. They're just trying to piss people off.
And Marvel's had a history of using anger marketing, but it's having, in my opinion, based on the research that I've done, it's having diminishing returns. So maybe in these numbers will help see that and see if I'm misspeaking, right? Or other things are going to it. I'm going to go to their slide, so it should pop in there in a minute. And here on this next slide, he's presented some claims that milkshakes have raised sales. I've heard that several times. A lot of people have said that, oh, this whole milkshake thing didn't hurt sales like some of us people have been discussing and saying, right? Instead, they say it's increased in sales. So I'll go ahead and let you explain some of this stuff on this slide here.
Okay, so it's kind of tricky to figure out what month to look at. So Comic-Con is separated by month. So sure happened on like July 28th. The Twitter campaign happened in early August. There's all sorts of complexities to when retailers order their comics, to order your comic books to be delivered to your store 2 months in advance. There's a few exceptions, but you can reorder if you think you missed something. So I think it might be good to look at like the October and the September numbers for Marvel. That's what I'm getting at in this slide.
Right. It's also a good idea to extend it like you're doing. So it wasn't, if it was a temporary uptick because of interest or not, we'll see if that interest holds on to the reader. because maybe it did bring some readers to check it out, but did it keep those readers? That's an interesting question.
Yes.
Or did it fall below what it was even before that occurred? Or did it go back to what levels were beforehand? And some other things I noticed in the other slides, so I don't want to jump to them, but there's other things too that can lead to those increases in sales as well. So we'll discuss those too.
Oh, and
Now,
I think we should note that all Comic-Con data is not like retailer sales data. It's basically retailer orders
right.
plus overshipments.
Right. And that's something that's been sort of common with Marvel lately.
And we don't really know. We don't really know how they say they overship like 10% of this one or 20% of this one, but we really don't know. Like at my dad's small store, sometimes we just randomly get more issues or issues we never even ordered. So I don't know who to believe there.
Now, wait, you said your father's store? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So that's good to know that you actually have that inside information current as well. So that's great. Now, you said too, when did we estimate this milkshake thing started? You said it.
End of July, early August.
And so notice on the slides here that after that period, it's colored blue to show the impact. And then after a little farther in October, it's going to be in red. So the first column, he has months, and then the next one's going to show the amount of titles.
Yes,
correct?
Sir. That's
okay,
right.
I'll let you share more of that because I believe in letting the guests talk more.
Okay. So after titles, there's the I call it unit shipped. You can call it supply. They call it sales. So it's the total number of books that went from Marvel to Diamond to retailers for each month. And then in the next column is the quote unquote revenue. And I say that because I use the cover price of each book to multiply it by how many of those books were shipped out. And then I added them all up in Excel, of course, not individually. And then
Absolutely
we have
not.
these numbers in the millions. So it's not true revenue because it's not the money that Marvel makes. It's just cover price times number.
Right. And that cover
Speaking,
price varies too, depending on different comics as well.
yeah, and that's something I probably should have looked into, like expensive comics were being. I tried to take account as much as I could, which is why we have the next couple of columns, which is from the month to the previous month, what's the difference in how much money was made to see if they made more money.
Right.
We can look at the individual titles and we know that those aren't doing well. Spoiler alert.
So one thing
I wanted
some
to
people could
on a global picture for Marvel. Yeah,
right.
what's your comment?
So one person could easily quickly just look at August and September and say, "Oh, the revenue went up." But there's another contributing factor to that, and I love that you put that in there. For example, Marvel Generation one shots came out. That's something above and beyond normal, as well as Marvel Legacy, and the overshipping. That's going to boost it too as well. So it gives it sort of an inflation, a fictitious inflation, if you will.
Yes. So, I mean, I could have subtracted all of that out, but I wanted to at least report that there were some special events going on.
Well, I think that's a good idea because if somebody uses those numbers to say, hey, look, after that it surged, well, you have to look the number of books, what titles went up for one of those, and there were special titles, and those had a higher cover price too, if I'm not mistaken. So that sort of inflates the numbers. And then if you look at December, when that started going away, it are the picture too as it continues to go. I think it's a really good overall show of it. So going to the next slide, we talk a little bit about the summary then of what that means at this point. And we're going to break into some individual titles in comparison as well too, just for the record. So hopefully we're not boring anybody. Are we boring you guys with numbers? Or are you liking this crap? I call everything crap, so I don't mean it really is. I appreciate the work here. So here's your summary. So what did the data tell you? What was your inference from this data?
At least from what certain people were arguing about, there was not like 5% unit growth over months. especially if you account for the special events. So, I mean, it's about the same
So
in
it really
terms of,
didn't surge then
yeah,
because of the additional additions on there and
yes,
inflated. Okay.
and there, and if we didn't mention this in the previous slide, but there I did keep track of how many titles and the difference in titles from month to month, and oftentimes the revenue growth will track with the title, with the change in titles,
Mhm.
which is why there's a maybe for revenue. There
Okay.
were some months that didn't, but all those special events just really muck up the analysis.
Okay. Anytime you want me to go back or I jumped ahead, you just let me know, okay? I'm just trying to feel when I should move ahead to the next slide. Yeah, and I agree, that it maybe is a good assumption because unless we look at every single issue that was released individually and track each one's sales, you're really only speculating based on a whole. But in a way that's the most important thing anyway, as a whole, is the outcome. Though individuals can be important for continuing and making it better. So next thing, I think this is absolutely fascinating. You actually went and tracked comic writers' Twitter feeds.
Yes.
That's some die-hard research in there, and I give you mad props for that because I've been one of those that's been consistently saying it's marketing. You represent the company. So go ahead and share what you have here about Tom King's Twitter feed.
Okay, so Tom King is the current writer for the Batman Rebirth series. I'm going to give you some disclaimers about this Twitter research. It is subject to my biases, so what could be like a miscellaneous pop culture tweet to some person might be a political tweet to someone else. Also, notice that there's only 64 tweets mentioned. I cut it off at 64 because I felt like I was getting a pretty good idea of his Twitter, but the guy will have like thousands of tweets. So
Right. Well, let me. I'm gonna
take it with,
back you up there a little bit too. Whenever you're doing surveys or collective data analysis like this, sometimes you do run into things that are not A or B or one or two. It does have an element of subjectiveness to it, and you had to do that. You had to go, okay, I think this fits this category better than this category, and that's one of the ways sometimes data can be skewed based on the person's perception. And that's where biases can come into play. So I'm assuming here, correct me if I'm right, you opened it right up front, you mentioned that too. So I applaud you for that. That you tried to keep your own personal bias out of that and was very subjective based on the data, correct?
yes, I let the data speak.
So you had 64 tweets starting from the 17th of November 27. 25% of his tweets were about DC in general. Correct.
Correct. Or things DC that were not Batman or Mr. Miracle.
Right. So yeah, so in general, another 27% was Batman alone.
That's his book.
Another 16 was DC.
Mr.
So
Miracle.
right, yeah,
16.
I'm sorry, I apologize, I misspoke. Mr. Miracle. So and Tom King works for DC, and you can see the majority of his posts then, right? 40, 50, we're at 60 something percent, maybe even 70s, is DC related.
Okay. And another side note, it's also tweets and retweets. I, just to be clear. So you go onto his Twitter page, there's a column that says tweets and it has what he's tweeted out and what he's retweeted out.
Okay.
Just
one of
to let
the
you know, methodology wise.
one of the people in the comment section said, "I'm actually curious what Tom King tweeted about Marvel." My guess is it was positive stuff. Good professionals tend to not really bash other professionals very often.
Yeah, sometimes he might have. I think maybe he had a artist friend or a writer friend at Marvel, and they were promoting their work, so he retweeted them. Uh, I think what movie came out? It might have been some Thor Ragnarok stuff too.
Now you had fan, so that's like fan interaction, answering questions. I'm guessing.
Yeah, answering questions or even like subtweeting fans or retweeting fans. Book or I met this guy at a con
So
or Yes.
What I gather from seeing this, a comic writer, the majority of his comics, since is representing comic books here.
Yes. I mean, they have the freedom to do whatever they want with their Twitter, but this guy, and you'll see it by the numbers, this guy is dedicated to his work, his creative work.
One of the things I've said, and I tell anybody this, I think, by saying I work for this company or I write this character, you are telling people that you represent that company. You would not probably have that following on Twitter that you do if you were just Joe Smo. So when
Yes.
they do that, they know that they're getting more followers. So if you want to be more soapboxish, speak your mind, I'm a big proponent in having, a pen name, for doing that, because then you're not connected to your company and using it and your fame and supporting, what you say, how it reflects on the company, having that issue happen.
And
What
feel
do you
free
feel?
to feel free to call me a noob, but I didn't realize that Stan Lee was a pen name. Is it?
Yes, it was.
Man.
Yeah, and see that's that old, we're gonna have a fictitious outrage now. It's selective outrage, I call it. You pick and choose what you're gonna be pissed at by ignoring what you should be, but it impacts your worldview and your narrative. So you're gonna keep your mouth shut and avoid that, and it's okay. But if it's on the other side, it's the end of the world. We've been seeing that a lot.
Yeah.
Now,
And I hope
since
that
you
guy fills in his role as editor in chief pretty well.
Oh, I sure do too. I hope he lays the smackdown. Now, you did more than just showing his Twitter. Then you showed how the book was doing, and we have that on the next slide. So there it goes. It pops up with the monthly rank as well as supply units shipped. Correct. I'll let you. As again, I don't like to do all the talking. I like a guest to talk more. So, by all means, tell us what this slide says.
Okay, so it's a two y-axis plot. So if you're not familiar with this, I tried to make it easy by making the right axis red and the data for the right axis also red. So you can see that right axis is the monthly rank of each issue of Batman with the month that it was published during. And you can see that there's some spread, but it's all in like the top 10 ranks,
Mhm.
with the exception of like one or two issues. I forgot what was going on at the time, but I think it was a big Marvel event or something like that.
Right.
So there's that. I should also note that I don't remember correctly, but I think Tom King started at that really high point at 7 or July 2016 or 7/2016. So you can also see that after DC Rebirth, which occurred at that giant peak, that sales have been pretty consistent for Tom King. They've leveled out at about 100,000 units per issue per month,
Okay.
and
Now,
sometimes there's two issues in a month.
Now I'm gonna say play devil's advocate against myself here in a second. We could say these sales have been this high partly due to the excellent customer interaction in social media marketing, putting it up there. But let's also be realistic here. Batman is a top tier character. He's a
Yes,
flagship character for DC. Therefore, he should be selling in the top 10. Does that sound fair?
yeah, that sounds fair. Um, and that's why I did the research on Batman and Amazing Spider-Man in that Dan Slott versus Tom King video on my channel, because uh, I couldn't do all the characters at once. I just wanted to see how the flagships were doing, which is Spider-Man, Batman.
And absolutely must see video. You just triggered that in my brain. It's like I watched that. I remember that. I've talked about top tier characters before, and if you're going to compare a character, you should compare it to another top tier character. I remember having interaction with Dan Slott before about sales once, and he kept comparing it to other stuff. I said, wait a minute, no, 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 you can't compare it to a C-lister character and then brag about sales. You should be comparing your product to the other top product. It's like Ford shouldn't be comparing its sales to an upstarting automobile industry. It should be comparing its sales to Toyota and things like that. Yeah, we have
Also,
to.
you should compare it to the market in general, to
Correct.
itself. Like how did it do on its first issue? How is it doing now? And I guess I unintentionally did that with the monthly rank.
Yeah, and that was very nice. Now, The next slide that you had on
Oh,
here
we're
should pop up, or you wanted more on that other slide? I can
no,
put
no,
keep
no,
it
no,
there.
no. It's a sharp transition from Batman to America Chavez. So
Right.
go on.
And it's a sharp, yeah, it's a very sharp, it's a knife blade sharp transition. So we just looked at Batman. So when we're comparing this, to be fair, as we were just saying, you can't really compare sales of this one and say, compare it to Batman fairly. Because let's be honest, American Chavez is not a top tier character yet. Hasn't had, the years behind it and the build up and everything else. So keep that in mind. But let's look at America and its orders and shipments. And so once again, it follows the same way that you've done it before with the monthly rank as well as the units shipped and the dates.
That's
And
right.
you and it's very clear that this has a downward trend. There is no uptick really at all. I don't think there's a single month that it went up. No, every single month it went down.
Okay, so there is that point at the end of the graph that says lenticular inflation, the little text box. So there's
Oh yeah, so I
double.
stand corrected until we hit that, and then it went up, and that's when within lenticular inflation, which was also massive overshipping, correct?
I believe so. I'd have to check Bleeding Cool and CVR for that. So
Well,
so
from
they
from
so
my
those
research, it was because to
okay.
get the lenticular covers, they had to get X amount of copies per amount of lenticular covers, so it inflated the amounts that they had to get. Now, to the exact numbers that was, I couldn't tell you, but it would make sense because why else would there be such a sharp increase in sales that month?
I can't give you an answer there other than, well, there was a very nice variant cover, and I think I have that in the next couple of slides. Um, I'd like to rewind back to the decline of shipments.
Wait, okay, well, just a moment. And they're wondering. The comment said also when you said you had to order like 200% to gain it, and that's exactly. So you had to really up that to gain it. So you wanted me to go back to another slide, a
No, no,
previous
no,
one?
no. We're just gonna rewind our discussion on this slide.
Oh, okay.
So,
Sorry.
so there's a decline from issue 1 all the way to, I think it's issue 8 or 9
Mhm.
with the lenticular inflation. Most things when you renumber, number 1 is gonna have a lot of orders. Number
Mhm.
2, much less, and hopefully it like flattens out by, I don't know, issue 10,
By
issue
the end of the
5.
first arc, yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the first arc. Um,
Usually have around a 50% drop off from issue number 1 to 2. If you see a much larger than 50% drop off, that is really bad news.
that's a good rule of thumb, and that's about a 50% drop off from
Mhm.
45, 50,000 to 22. No, no, yeah, it's about 24,000
Right,
in
because you
issue
get the
2.
speculator market that's buying it just the sake of hold on to it and think they're going to sell it for massive money later. Then what after that part is left because they bought the number one, you have the people that actually bought it because they plan on reading it. And so you see through that first story arc how many people are going to keep buying issue two good enough, they're going to buy the next one. And then if that first arc ends in 5 to 7 issues, then see how many stay on for the next arc. That's always a really good sign. And then by then you should hopefully be hitting somewhat of a leveling off period with it. If you do have dropping, it should be very minor ups and downs at that point, unless some kind of super special issue grabs on. And as you see here, there's really nothing that's been pulling it up until that lenticular cover, which caused forced extra purchasing.
Yes, and I don't. It's 200% of some random issue you've ordered in the past.
Mhm.
So I'm like an Adam Warlock fan, and he's coming back for Guardians of the Galaxy number 150. Yes, I might tweet about that a little bit too much, but you had to have it's so to get the to get the variants you or the incentive variants, you have to order like 150% of what you ordered for Secret Empire number 8,
Okay.
and that and I don't know what issue it was for these. So for small stores that only order like 1 or 2, it's a pretty good deal. But
Yeah.
for like Midtown Comics, Bedrock City Comics, yeah, they have to, they're missing out. They're losing there. You have to order like 40 or Well, maybe not of America, but
Yeah, that might be a crippling thing to your bottom line there, as you have a
yes,
lot of things to burn or use for toilet paper.
yes, one for the winter. So another thing, going back to sales and stuff, it's not a popular book. It's like top 200,
Yeah.
and there's 400 books published every month, or that's what's reported, and
So
it's at like 9,000, which is double the Aubrey Sitterson GI Joe issues.
now, one thing I'd like to mention is, and I'm going to support the artists and things a little bit on their bull crappery here, because you don't advertise a book by saying, "Hey, everybody, this book is tanking. You need to buy it." What you do is you say, "Hey, this is a hot new thing. You guys are missing out," and things like that. Now, granted, I don't think you should boldface lie and say it's doing great like some of are doing. And when we witness this in TV a lot, in television, they'll say the hot new show, and then you see it's canceled the next episode.
Oh
It's because
yeah.
they're trying to drive excitement towards that show. So now, on the next slide, if we're ready, and you showed Gabby Rivera's Twitter. So here we go. We're gonna look at Gabby Rivera's Twitter activity once it pops up on there because of the lag. And here we go. This is quite fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So go at it. You conducted this data. Please share.
So here we go again. Biases and small time frame, small number of tweets, but larger than my Tom King one, because I want to give these people a chance. So yeah, there's a bias right there. So 109 retweets. As you can see, there's a lot of miscellaneous is non-comic book, non-politics, non-promotion type stuff, but not as random as look at the scarf I just bought, which I categorize under personal. So there's a lot of not comics on her Twitter. There's a lot of identity politics, 28%. And the specific identity politics would be like, I hate white men, which is increasingly relevant with her today's tweets.
Yes. just today.
It's like, wow, I wonder what the graph would look like now. Feminism and like race politics. That's under identity politics. There's a separate category for promotion of LGBTQ issues. That's 17%. 14% is the partisan politics. Typically, I guess she tweeted about the tax plan recently. She was tweeting about that too.
Mm-hmm. So there's around 60% of her tweets are political related.
Yes,
and once again,
issues.
She's representing the company she works for. Okay. You were saying, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
9% of her tweets, or tweets and retweets, she's fairly nice to fans, retweeting them or answering their questions nicely.
I will give her credit, even if you are not bragging her up and patting her on her back. She's one of the better ones about not blocking people.
Yeah, I mean, I had to go incognito for Dan Slott's analysis.
Really? Who would have guessed that you would have been blocked by Slott? In the comment section, is there anybody in the comment section that's not blocked by Slott by any chance at all? Let us know. So do we want to move on to the next slide, or you want me to stay here?
Other point, the things that she writes, it's like total of 3% of these tweets. It's compared to 60% of the other stuff. It's not pretty.
So 3% of what she tweeted here in this period of time was actually promoting her work. Wonder, and yet the sales of her book is not good. There could be some correlation there.
Yes, and with the number of characters I've been looking at, it's looking like that.
Oh, Sporkman Studio said that he's not blocked by Slott. Well, you probably will today if you're watching this, if you say anything about it, just so you know. So digging in more of America then, because the next slide, you actually pulled up the numbers month by month, and we can actually see as well what the units ordered were after the milkshake incident as well. Correct?
Correct. So first column is the date the issue is published. The issue number is the next column to the right. The units shipped, supply, sales, whatever you want to call it, is in the third column. It's the monthly rank of that issue is in the fourth column, and the percent change in units from issue to issue is in the last column.
So now look at issue 1 to issue 2. You see around a 50% drop off right away. Okay. Yeah, you put changing units 45, right? So see, that lines up as usual. But then it goes down to 16,000 units plus 12,000, 11. Then we had the milkshake incident, and it's around 9,000 something. Then it goes even lower after that point. So once again, the milkshake incident did not appear to work in favor of increasing sales. Just saying. And then October, we had the boost because of the lenticular variant covers, correct?
Correct. 190% difference.
So most likely it's fair to say that the lenticular covers gave a temporary short boost in potential profitability, but how many of those issues, I wonder, did Marvel give for free to the comic shops and the overships?
I don't know. Our favorite comic book news sites always say like 10 or 20% overship, but do you really believe them? I don't know.
Not from the ones I've talked to anyway. Now, it depends on what issue it is. They might get that much, but I've seen other ones, and some have told me that I've contacted as much as 200+ percentage overship. So, because then they can, because they know people are watching this stuff and watching the shipping numbers. So they see higher shipping numbers. Oh, it must not be bad, or it must be something worth checking out, when it might not really be selling at all. So,
yeah. And we'll see in the next slide why this lenticular.
All right, I'm pulling it up right now, so we should see the lenticular difference here in just a second. Once again, I really appreciate anybody who didn't join in at the very beginning. The Comic Chemist here has pulled all this information together, so I give him mad props for doing this. It took a lot of time and effort, and I will add, after I'm done with this, his YouTube link in the bottom in the info bar. I definitely think you should check out his channel and subscribe. He's providing some great information. All right, so here we have the milkshakes or nostalgia you have here. Normally you wouldn't see that, if it was in regular play view, we wouldn't have that box in the background. But for some reason, every time I put this in full play view, it doesn't share it on the screen. So I apologize.
Yeah, I could have deleted it too.
Well, that's okay. We didn't know it wouldn't work. That's my fault. And so here we go. Here's the, the different cover, so people bought it for that. Were you a fan of these nostalgia covers at all?
Oh, well, not this one, because I don't think it looks that awesome. But I like the nostalgia covers. I totally got suckered into that. So which ones did I buy? I bought the Spider-Gwen one, the Amazing Spider-Man 316. Yeah, the 316 homage cover. What else? I got the Punisher one.
Okay.
With the War Machine cover.
How about you in the comments? Did anybody in the comments buy any of those because of the lenticular cover by any chance?
What about the Renew Your Vows one? The Amazing Spider-Man 252 homage?
Now, Nerd Wonder put in there, I find this really insulting. Can you explain why? I'm just curious your views. Why is it insulting? You mean because they use the same storyline things, or you own that one? Okay, because I read it. She said. Fair enough. Yeah, if you read that issue, that is darn right insulting. Fair enough. All right, so now we're gonna do the big segue. You ready for Dan Slott's Twitter? Should we discuss that one?
Before we talk about that,
okay.
Nostalgia is a pretty big deal, and I don't know what the cost of that Amazing Spider-Man cover is, but it's much more than like $4. So people would want to have something like that just to have, and that's why I got suckered into buying them too, because I might not just buy Amazing Spider, all those issues, or Incredible Hulk #1, for instance, in the Captain Marvel cover.
Okay. I used to have Incredible Hulk #1.
Oh.
Yeah, my little brother tore it up when he was little.
Oh.
He didn't know any better. Yeah, youth does that. So
uh,
I didn't
it's
buy into the lenticular covers. The nostalgia didn't play on me with that. I didn't care for the artwork on a lot of them, to be honest.
okay. It's not
But
really
I thought it was
nostalgia with me. I'm like in my mid-20s, so but
okay.
it's key issue type. It looks like a key issue, so
Okay. And that's absolutely fair. And that's a perfectly fair opinion of that. And that's a neat thing because you're a lot younger than I am. And so we're getting two different views, possibly also because of age. I think that's awesome.
Cleveland Browns, Twitter god, Dan Slott.
Chris Shaver says, plus one person buys online, one copy all over the net. Yeah, that's a good point, too. There is that people will be sharing that kind of stuff. Man of Action, I think you missed a lot of data, but don't worry, we will have this video up where you can go back and hear us talk about all these numbers if you find numbers fascinating. If you don't find numbers and charts fascinating, this probably won't be your favorite. So, but this next one, this is one I really was looking forward to, and this is your survey of 110 tweets starting from November 17th of 2017 of Dan Slott, looking at his Twitter breakdown of how he tweets.
Yeah, so you'll
Phew.
notice politics, man.
Yeah,
35%.
35%. Oof. Damn. Now, Dan Slott is known for some fan interaction. If you're kissing his butt, patting him on the back, he loves to interact with you. So I'll give him props there.
Yeah, 6% positive or neutral to positive stuff.
Now
However,
his Silver Surfer got canceled, but yet he claimed he was promoting it on his Twitter. Well, a quick look at this shows if he was promoting it, he did not promote it heavily. That's for
not as
sure.
much as he was promoting Donald Trump, that's for sure.
That's a good point. Were you wanting? I accidentally cut you off. Were you wanting to say anything in particular about the
Oh,
breakdown here? Or?
if you're critical of him, you'll get like subtweeted or a angry reply, and that's 18% of his tweets tab.
18% of them, a lot of those were angry replies.
Well, angry replies or subtweeting like diversity in comics or Captain Cummings,
So
that
the
kind of thing.
so the other fan one, oh, I see, because I didn't pay attention. That
Yes,
was
there's a
negative fan
positive and a
reaction.
negative.
Positive was 6%. So he focuses much harder on being negative towards people than even being positive towards his own fan base.
Yeah, I mean, just just be nice. Spider-Man is a great
Wow.
character.
You think you would focus on your fan base to help you grow? Because I don't know if I was a fan and I think the writer or the artist was contacting me on Twitter, chatting me up, being nice, saying, "Hey, I loved this issue like you did too." You get that little bond with them, and the next thing you know, you might say, "Hey, buddy, man, I read this issue, and I was talking to the writer or the artist, and they're really cool, dude. You should check out their book," and help promote that. I could definitely see how that would have an impact on sales. At least I would think so.
Yeah, just more promotion means more sales.
Yeah,
It's
Chris Shaver said you cannot call damn political tweets real politics. And even if they were, even if they were politics that I agreed with, I would say don't do it. Keep it out of your business connected emails and tweets. I mean,
yeah, or be ambiguous or funny about it.
yeah, people could take a pop shot here and there for a little bit of fun. I don't think anybody minds that too much, but as you said, 35% politics. Holy crap. And another 18% just arguing with fans. That's more than he spent on his Silver Surfer promotion and Spider Man combined drastically, just on the negative fan responses. That's not
Yep.
good.
A
Well,
note
no.
about the DC promotion. This was, I think it was during like the Justice League type
Mhm.
weekend, so it might be a little bit higher than it needs to be. So mileage might vary if we look at a different time frame. But
I think Douglas Ernst threw us out a challenge. He said, I would like to see a breakdown of Trump related tweets over the course of, say, 60 days.
Trump on
Yeah,
Dan
just
Slot. Would
just
people
Trump
like
related.
that video? Wait, Trump related.
Yeah, just his tweets over a period of 60 days. How many were Trump related compared to everything else?
Do you care about retweets, Doug or
Yeah,
Mr. Ernst?
that's a great question, Doug. Would retweets be? Would you like that retweets included? Ugh, couldn't speak there. See what we get as a response
It's
for that. How much does Dan tweet about Trump specifically?
okay. So that's a simple Twitter advanced search. So I can that can be pretty quick. Well, wait,
Retweets
what do you
as
want to look
well.
at?
He said
Oh,
retweets as well if Trump related.
okay, that's a little bit more complicated. Hmm.
Well, you weren't planning on doing that now, were you?
No, I wasn't going to do it now. That,
All right,
that
keep
might take a while, but I'll keep it. I'll keep it on my list of things I'd like to do.
awesome. So,
Or if Dan Slott does something interesting on Twitter.
he's been vacant on Twitter for a few days, unless he came back today.
Yeah, maybe. Well, is no news good news with Dan Slott?
Probably the best. He
Okay.
did, Doug did say either one works with subtweets or retweets or not. It's fine. It'd be very telling. So
But
definitely.
does he want? I don't know if he wants a survey or does he just want me to take a bunch of snapshots of his Trump
No,
tweets?
it's how many Trump tweets compared to all of his tweets that he's
Oh,
made. What
all of
percentage were
six,
Trump's?
60 days. Well, it's definitely that would be something to do. Maybe, maybe when he gets back to Twitter.
Yeah, because right now he's been gone for a few days, so that's gonna definitely do a change in the amount. So yeah, that might be when we come. Maybe that's a good challenge. When he comes back, let's do a 60-day count. Of how many Trump tweets as of overall.
Yes, and when
Refresh
I'm
that.
done with my social justice league video series.
Did you catch that? Social Justice League video series. Definitely check it out. Now that we've looked at Dan Slott's tweets, then, okay, and Doug, that was a great question. I'm looking forward to that. Let's look at Amazing Spider-Man units shipped over time as well as monthly rank, then, since we know he spent so much time promoting his work. He said, Doug said, he said before that November through December, the printing press shuts down or something, so he has to focus on getting his work in. Well, probably people are taking breaks on vacation, so they have to have it pre-set up ahead of time. But here we are, and with a few notable spikes, he had a couple issues that shot up, a bit, but otherwise he's had a pretty significant downward trend.
Yes, from about 110,000 and all the way down to below 60,000 units per issue.
Right, he's bobbling right now on average to 50s to low 60,000, mid 50s to low 60,000. I'm saying average if you took the last spread for a little while. And that's where I said what I was focusing on before. We should, when we compare Spider-Man, he's the top tier flagship character for Marvel. So we should be comparing him to top tier flagship characters from other respectable brands, correct?
That's right, and that's why we did Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And what's telling is the monthly rank over this course of little over 3 years. He goes from top 10 in 2015 all the way down to like top 30 in 2017. And to see my favorite childhood character just decline like that over such a small time, it's a little saddening.
So he's a big favorite character of yours then.
Well, until my undergrad physics teacher told me that he killed Gwen Stacy, then it was then I kind of focused on school a little bit more.
Well, Gwen Stacy died a long time ago. That was a
Well,
Jerry Conway story.
I didn't realize that if he slowed her fall a little bit slower,
Mhm.
she'd be alive.
Well, that's one of the fascinating things about that story. It's arguable of who really killed Gwen Stacy. Some people would say Peter feels extra anguish because he killed her, because the way he stopped her from falling. But some people said there would be no way to really stop her without massive amount of stretch in the line and things like that too. So,
Oh,
you know,
sounds like a fun thing to look up on YouTube. It's like the Titanic. Two people could have fit on that plank of wood.
yeah, but I'm glad Leonardo went down no matter what. That was my favorite part of that movie. I cheered. Like, yes, let that guy die. Sorry, everybody. I was evil there. I know.
Yeah,
In real
don't
world, I felt bad for everybody on the Titanic.
go Secret Empire on us, Captain.
Yeah, that's right. So as you see, the sales then are going down. It's not holding up to the rank that it should be for a top tier book. In my opinion, that's what the data is telling me. Do you feel I'm misrepresenting the data?
Uh, no, I mean, if it's a top tier book, it should have more consistent sales. And I feel like if it's Marvel of all things, which is completely destroying DC in the movie market, it should be there should be a lot of support for Spider-Man. But for some odd reason, it's top 30 now, and that's I don't think that's good.
Right. And you look on top of that, when he doubled down on the big, milkshake support, that clearly did not help sales any.
Yes, I mean, well, there's that outlier at the end of the graph, but I think
Mhm.
we're going to get to that conclusion pretty quick.
Okay. Did you want me to move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's move on to the next slide.
All right. And this one, he's going to give it a little bit easier to see the actual order numbers because he provided those rather than just on the chart. Charts are great for showing, what direction things are trending, if there's a lot of correlation. And if you notice, there's been a lot of correlation in these charts. That means the dots on the chart are actually pretty close together, showing a pattern. Where if they're spread all over, then it's really hard to figure out what the heck is going on.
All right. So this is exactly it's the same format as the America graph: date, issue, units shipped, monthly rank, and the percent change of units between that and the previous issue. So um, there's a general downward trend, um, except for it looks like in September and looks like September there was a 4,000 unit increase. I
Mhm.
don't really know what. Oh, no, I don't really know what happened there, but it's the same. No, it's not the same month. Hmm.
Did anything special happen on issue 32 of Amazing Spider-Man? Anybody aware of
It was
that?
a Norman Osborn story, so maybe a couple of the people like, oh, Green Goblin's coming back. That might have been it.
Okay. And once again, as I said before, it was around the mid 50s to low 60 average. And you see there, if you look on that in those units, that's a pretty good assessment of what they were in. Now, on the October 17th, 789 and 790, or particularly 789, that was the lenticular variant. So that's going to pump that up significantly.
Yes. Okay, I think it was a Norman Osborn thing. That's the same thing with the March issue, why it's unusually high for 2017.
Okay.
So,
And a
moving
thing
on.
too, you think that the lenticular part of the goal of the lenticular was to gain interest and have people keep reading. And based on what you see of the very next issue, it doesn't look like it had that impact. People read that and were like, because actually less people read it than the previous month before the lenticular.
Well, the lenticular, well, yes. Um, yes and no. Two issues came out in October. Typically, those are ordered at the same time. So
Okay.
more people were interested in the lenticular than the not lenticular issue. And
Oh,
that's
that
that's
makes
the
sense.
evidence I have that says it wasn't really a milkshake thing. It was more of a look, this issue looks a lot like a famous previous issue. Or
Okay.
it's got a cool cover.
You have a very good point too. I wasn't thinking they were actually shipped same month, so that would shouldn't have any impact on that. Very good point. And you also showed what the cover was, so I'm pulling that up. I have to say the lenticular cover, the legacy cover on that one, I think was pretty awesome. So I'll give it props for that one. Hopefully they'll get to see it here soon because it is going slower than molasses. There we go. I like that one.
Yeah, it's a
And,
pretty cool one. I don't think I bought it. I was too interested in like the other ones that I bought, or it didn't look cool enough, or it wasn't a really cool Amazing Spider-Man issue. They should have done Amazing Fantasy 15, the first appearance. I think that would have sold a lot more.
I will give some Amazing Spider-Man some props. They tend to have pretty good artists on that book to help
Yeah,
support it.
I'd say so.
So,
Um,
I won't buy a book just because of the art, but I won't buy a book if the art's so terrible I can't understand it either, though. I hate when it gets so bad I can't tell what's going on.
yeah, sometimes I buy a book just because the cover art looks cool.
Okay.
Where I'll look at the previews and I'll be like, I think I'm gonna order that.
Now, in this next slide here, we have Captain Marvel, and we have Miss Marvel.
Yeah, this is a complicated one because, as you guys know, Carol Danvers as Miss Marvel transitioned to Carol Danvers or Carl Manvers, whomever it is these days, as Captain Marvel, replacing the old Marvel. And then a new character was introduced that took up the Ms. Marvel mantle. There's a big divide in the black Ms. Marvel data. And there's the Captain Marvel, Carl Manvers in red.
Yeah, if you look at that
Has
at
some
it,
fluctuation.
the Miss Marvel had a bigger spread. It was quite a bit all over the place during that era, whereas it's a much tighter trend on the other one.
That's right. You mean like Spider-Man, or?
Well, I'm just comparing the consistency of unit sales of how they're much more linear here than we've seen previous. So it's an interesting take there. I'm going to switch right to the next slide then, so it shows a little bit more of what I was saying there.
All right.
See, in the comments, meanwhile, while they're waiting for that one, see, March says he agreed. Mr. Dystopian paid voice actors, probably. Okay, I don't know what he's talking about. We might need to talk about that sometime in deep dive. I don't know. They must be talking about something I'm not sure of. I didn't catch it all. All right, so what does this slide tell us here?
Oh, this is monthly rank.
Mm-hmm.
This is so same characters, how well they're doing in the market. And as you can see, Carol Danvers as Ms. Marvel, and I think there's a lot of criticism that the last arc of that book sucked. I haven't read all of them or looked at all the reviews, but that book is more popular than, or the spread is narrower than the current Marvels right now.
Well, yeah, you're comparing Miss Marvel Kamala Khan there to Captain Marvel, you mean, correct?
Actually, the first half of the graph is Carol Danvers as Ms. Marvel.
Okay.
Kamala didn't come in until 2014.
Right. Well, yeah, that's true. I was thinking on this
Kamala
particular
is more popular than Carl Manvers or whatever we call him, her.
Yeah, she had a pretty somewhat strong start, even though it wasn't near as popular and boisterous as they claimed it was. I love they were bragging about, well, it had multiple printings. And I tried to explain people, multiple printings doesn't mean a whole lot when each print run is very small. So
exactly. That might be that would be a pretty good video subject.
Well, yeah, see, because I mean, if you did a print run of 100,000 units, okay, and then you did another print run, a second printing of 100,000 units, that's good. But now, if you said, well, we did 4 print runs, but each one was 10,000 units, it paints a fake narrative. And they love to brag with that. It had this many printings. It's an old cliche that I used to teach and mention in some classes too. I said, if you're going to sell your business, or you're trying to get a loan, I doubled my sales this year. And they're like, well, how many did you sell? Well, I sold 2 this year. It sounds much more impressive than what it really is.
Yeah, like that Dan Slott Tom King video. I tripled my subscribers, just to let you know.
Oh,
it went from like 3 to 9 or something.
See, but don't say that. You say you tripled your subscribers. See how much better it sounds without 3 to 9.
Yeah, but I wanted to make the joke.
I'm trying to sell you here, man. But you're right. You're absolutely right. That tells a whole different story. Now, on this next slide, too, you mentioned Volume 2. You show Carol Danvers as well as Secret Invasion as the Moonstone as Miss Marvel. Yeah, I know the Moonstone version just didn't sell real well either.
Yeah, it didn't. It's like significantly lower, like it's around 25,000, somewhere around that. It got closer to 20,000 at the end, though.
Yeah, Man of Action was talking about what we were saying about the shipping and things, and saying double, the print runs and things. He said, yeah, it's called wordplay. We call it in the business wordsmithing. Absolutely.
Wordsmithing. Good term.
Yeah, I've heard it a couple different terms as well. It's one of those things there's a lot of jargon for. Yeah, Mariana said apparently. Oops, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not really a business person, so yeah, thanks for all this.
That's all right. It makes it fun. More views at different things. And that's one thing you want when you're doing analysis is many different views so you can have as much possible information and takes on it as can be. Because if you get one particular view and you're cited on that, you're going to skew all the information to that. As where sometimes that oddball take gives you a lot of insight that you just didn't realize.
Right. And we have
You know,
it's surprising how diverse our community is. We have like ex-military people. I'm a scientist. I know there's at least a few medical professionals in the YouTube community too, and it's nice to get all of their perspectives and listen to their stuff.
absolutely. So I think it's fair to say with these slides, we're seeing that really over the last several years, as much as they want to, they changed Miss Marvel to Captain Marvel. She's just not catching on, which I think is a shame because she's like in my opinion, like the Wonder Woman for Marvel.
Oh
I
yes.
have her. I have her a lot of her comics. I have her first whole series when she came out. I have the second one complete. I think I have the next volume complete. I have to look. I mean, I have most. I actually am a fan. So what they've done to her in the last few years really bothers me because she's so written out of character. And when I say that, I put in videos and I show those transitions and how her behavior was and how she viewed herself. Instead, I get, "You're a sexist pig." It's like, you missed the point.
Yeah, and then that whole control freak arc in Civil War II, it was kind of weird.
Yeah, it didn't fit her. She's not a control freak. Actually, she's always historically been very judgmental against herself. She struggles with that. You know, uh, so that's just another insight of the character. Now you had here is Carol is Captain Marvel and the sales there, and you can see they keep rebooting her series. It always starts and just every time it keeps going down. Volume 7 had the same trouble down shoot, which all of them tend to go on a downward slope, but hers are pretty darn bad. We had the Carol Core, volume. Then we had the volume 8 with Captain Marvel, Mighty Captain Marvel, or whatever. She's had so many reboots now that leads to another problem. It becomes a hard book to follow.
Yeah, it's like stop trying to make Captain Marvel happen. It's not happening.
Right. Or
Or
stick
at least
with
give
it.
her, or do something.
Because
Get a
all
good
of
writer.
right, all of these reboots you look are still starting about the same spot. And they have the same problem and around the same, very near same slope of downward trend. So maybe the issue isn't, hey, get people's attention to read it. It's we're not getting good enough writers and stories to keep people's attention. Might that be a fair way to assess that?
Maybe. I mean, I don't really know what goes on in Marvel's head when they do these things.
Well,
I
they know
know.
a new number one gets an instant surge in
Oh yes.
popularity.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I think, and you find that it has usually a diminishing return. People get sick of it. And I think we're seeing some of that.
I'm not really seeing it from. Well, well, the number ones here look like they're going up a little bit, but
Right. Well, I mean,
obviously
in general.
yes, the continuation is going down. There's
Mhm.
that downward trend. Fifteen
Right.
thousand units right now.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
I
a
think you
shame.
were a little
Who
different.
knows? Maybe when the movie comes, there's going to be a surge. So they better, unless the movie tanks, hopefully they can bring something together. Because as much as people want to play the hate game stuff, this is a character I want to see do well. Really do. I
Yes,
like this character. Always have. So
yes,
all
and
right,
I'd like Marvel to have a strong female heroine for their
absolutely.
movies.
Yeah, and I know they've got a lot of females they can use too, and she has Carol has a clouded back history. She has a very convoluted history, and she's had some stinker stories in there too that didn't help. You
Oh
know,
yes, the what giving birth to her lover story. That one.
oh yeah, that was well, yeah, to her rapist. Yeah, that was just wonderful. So here is her Twitter history.
So this is the
Now,
current writer of Mighty Captain Marvel.
once again, look at the amount of promotion for herself. Now you have other self promotion for 11%, Captain Marvel 2%, for other publications 5%, and for Marvel 8%.
I actually don't remember what the other self. Oh, I think she was advertising she was going to some sort of convention. It might not have been Comic Con, but she was appearing with other writers.
Okay.
So there were a few tweets about that.
Still business related, and that's not
Yeah,
bad.
still business.
But 37% politics, and I'm pretty sure we can guess how these politics went, right?
Yes, yes, definitely make America great again. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yikes. All right, so let's go right to the numbers then, because that's going to be a little easier to tell than just off the charts, too, and you put all that work in there. So we're going to see how these issues went for Mighty Captain Marvel. And come on, thing, pop up there. Once again, we've got to wait for the good old slow screen to refresh. There we go. It's not a good trend. It's
No,
not a good
lots
trend
of
at all.
lots of negatives there. Big double-digit negatives.
So doesn't look like Milkshake did any good for this one either. Because after
Yes.
that incident, it continued to go down with the exception of the lenticular cover once again. So if anybody tells you in the comments section that the whole Milkshake deal gave a slight uptick in sales, that's probably because they're taking an average amount of the units, like out of maybe the last 5 issues or 6. But they're not being honest of why. It's because that outlier of the lenticular boosted it. If we take that out, it's not good news. It's
No.
bad news. So
18,000. This is
yeah,
this is like their flagship. They're trying to make her a flagship for a cartoon series now, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah, they just announced some kind of thing with the cartoon series that has lots of females. I think they're younging them up though. That's the Marvel thing right now. Everyone has to be young,
I
which
think
is
they're trying to make their own like Teen Titans Go or something like that.
yeah. Now I find this next slide incredibly funny because as much as people, why did it go back to the milkshake one there on there? I don't know why. It's not the one I'm sharing. There it goes. As much as Marvel, I'm sure, hates that people are calling her Carl Manvers now. Out of all the covers you're going to make a lenticular out of, is you're going to compare it with the Hulk. That was probably not a smart move.
Oh, not a smart move at all.
We're going to use the buffest, one of the buffest guys there is, and we're going to model her cover after that and wonder why people say we're transitioning her to look like a man.
Mm,
No, when I say that too, when I say they transition her, I don't mean they're actually making her a man. I looked at the transition of the character over the years by physically, with her outfits and things as well, and it's her mental character, the way she actually behaves, and things like that. Not, sexual conversion.
right, right. We're totally. It's totally a meme right now.
Right.
Um, I have a off topic question. So Incredible Hulk #1, not the best idea. But what cover would you spoof for a lenticular for Captain Marvel?
Oh wow, a cover for Captain Marvel. Well, part of the problem is Marvel doesn't have a lot of long-lasting female titles, so selecting one for her would be very tough. Because you wouldn't want to. It'd be you maybe make more sense out of a team book, but I can understand you want to stick with solo books for solo characters.
Mhm.
So I think that would be very hard. That's a good point. And how about you guys in the comments? Is there a cover that she should have probably had a lenticular based off of that would have been better fitting than the Hulk? I think that's a very good question. Boy,
I think
that's
I
a
think they
tough one.
should have given Miss Marvel #1. That would have been cool.
That I would have liked, but I thought of that too right away. But I thought, would it be sort of a cop out to use her own series to do a
They
cover
used
based
they
off
used
of?
Spider-Man for his own series, so
They did. You're right. So you know what? Therefore, I would have used Miss Marvel issue #1 because then all the people that didn't realize it too will see that her new outfit is actually a throwback to the original. So
yeah,
I like that.
it has that star logo. Yeah.
Mhm. It absolutely does, and
I
that's one of
like
the things.
that.
I actually like this new outfit. I liked the
Yeah.
black outfit too, but I really do like this outfit.
Yeah, and I don't mind more conservative outfits on female characters. It's when you start making them intentionally ugly or non-feminine.
Right.
It's I don't know. It just doesn't rub well with me.
I agree with you there as well as how the character's been behaving in her own series. It's a complete change. And I mean, I understand characters evolve, but this was a drastic change. Very cool. Now, the next slide you have on here I'm going to preface that a little bit. This is Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. And here, that's another problem with the whole Captain Marvel mythos. She's been changed so many times between Miss Marvel being Captain Marvel, being binary, being Warbird. And then they take her title, and somebody else was Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau too, and they pushed her to be in Photon. And then they give the title Miss Marvel to Kamala Khan, which, to be honest, Kamala Khan is actually an interesting character. She's not incredibly original, that's for sure. She's actually a lot grabbed from Peter Parker and then Powers of Mr. Fantastic. But overall, she could have been a lot worse. I mean, I don't like the political overtones in the book. I think there's a lot of white smacking in that, if I will. And I've shown that in some of my videos, the way they portrayed white people and things like that, I think is a little harsh and not fair.
Yeah, to get to the Paul's issue on Ms. Marvel is when I started not to like the character.
Well, you look at the very first major villain she had. It was a rooster. You catch the drift there, right? I mean, it's like, I wonder if that had something against men.
Ouch! Wow, I didn't even see that. Man.
Yeah, it's a rooster kind of thing. So there, you know what? Yeah, Man of Action mentioned the she thing will be next, but a She-Hulk might have been a good cover to base Captain Marvel off of for a lenticular. At least you would have had a Hulk, and the female version though.
She-Hulk #1, that one.
Yeah, that could be. The Comic Kid asked, "Are we excited for The Last Jedi?" No, I'm not. No offense to Last Jedi, it's just because I have not seen the last 2 Star Wars movies yet, so I'm behind.
Oh, you should see them. Get in with the discussion.
I'm so behind. I just there's only so many hours in a day. I have a hard time getting them in.
Fair enough. We all have time for our own things.
Right. Now this one with Miss Marvel.
You're a comic guy.
Well, yes. I like the movies too and things. It's just I've got kids, and so most of the time, if I see a movie right now, it's a kid movie. So.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So as we see here, even with all the bragging, the units sold for Kamala Khan are nothing to really be bragging about. I mean, that's my opinion.
The sales are basically 30,000 most of the time, but it's gone down very recently.
Yeah, I
don't know. I
haven't been following
more politics in the issues in general.
I haven't been reading them, so I could not tell you. I would not be fair to speculate on that at all. Anybody in the chat read Miss Marvel and can say, is there a big change in the storyline or something? Because you're right, it had been holding pretty consistently in the low 30s, for shipping. And then, boom, it just started, at the beginning of 2017, dropping down, starting to go downhill. Maybe, or is it maybe G. Willow Wilson pissing people off on Twitter? I have no idea.
It could be.
But let's take a look at that and see, could she be using a lot of hackery in politics? And so far, all these comics that have not been doing really well that we've compared have tended to be having writers that are very political on Twitter. I'm not saying that's the reason why this is happening, but it could be part of the reason. It definitely could have an impact on it.
It's definitely trending. Mm-hmm. When you put all of these things, all the data I've collected, it's looking like it.
Now, I love this. 92 tweets starting from the 20th of November, 2017. 1% was promoting Miss Marvel. 1%.
So that's like one tweet.
Oh man, if I was a writer for like the #1 or #2 or heck even #3, 4, or 5, publisher for comic books, I would be on there promoting my book like crazy. I'd be like the CEO of Gearbox or whatever. That guy's always on there promoting the games they make. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
I will give her credit. Pop culture, 34%, as long as it's general stuff. But partisan politics, 36%. Now, here's one I noticed on this, and I wanted to talk about this one. You had racism, 7%.
Different shade of partisan politics, basically. I think there might have been, I don't know, some guy who got into a police brutality thing, and they were writing it off as racism or something like that. And other tweets like that.
Okay. So just another form of politics, but focused on one particular area more than others. Okay, fair enough.
Right.
You also have diversity promotion.
And probably the more, maybe a more positive version of the whole racism thing,
Okay.
uh, like writers of color or queer writers and whatnot. Get in there, get into this writing competition, something
Okay.
like that.
Okay, fair enough. So nothing really harsh there. Just, some self promotion and promoting other areas. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So the main thing, though, is no promotion of their own really sales material and too much politics. And if we go to the next slide and look at the sales from that, because once again, we're showing these and how they've been impacted over the period of time recently, comparing it to their social media as well as that big, milkshake blast. We see here she's had a pretty turbulent 2017. And then after Milkshake, once again, did not improve anything.
Yes, like from July to August, minus 18%, August to September, minus 5%, September to October, minus 2%. Now, something we should note is that she's getting her own lenticular based off of Captain America number 100 this month.
Boo.
So she hasn't gotten the lenticular yet.
So it's going to be based off of Captain America 100. Come
Yeah,
on.
that's the one where he's like coming out of the newspaper. That's number 100, right?
I'm picturing it in my head. He's like busted through the cover. Yeah, unless I'm mistaken, I think that's 100. So yeah, that's because it's his start of his own series after, because he was in Tales of Suspense for a long time, sharing it with Iron Man.
Mm-hmm. And
So
then appearing from the Golden Age
yep,
in Avengers number 4.
absolutely. Very interesting. So, oh, that's right. I remember. And you brought the picture out, and there it is. You guys will see it. It is the newspaper one. This is 109. Okay, it's issue 109. We can't remember everything. So, I will say the cover is not terrible, but it sure ain't good. I mean,
Where's the
look at how the
definition?
lettering is. Yeah, the lettering's bad. She looks flat. Even the background with the paper doesn't look as much, like a paper. It doesn't look good. I think they want us to be able to read this stuff in the background. What is MS Marvel's agenda? Miss Marvel's agenda. I
We
think
should
that's
ask her
actually,
about her blank agenda.
well, it's almost like they wanted to make sure they had some pop shots here at people, with that agenda deal. That's the first thing that came to my head. Who does Ms. Marvel trust? Eh.
Where does Ms. Marvel stand?
I'll take the Captain America comic over this one any day. So
Yep, you'll
this
spend a
cover, I
lot of
mean.
money, that's for sure.
Well, I have that issue in my
Oh,
stash, so
very nice.
I have
Very, very.
probably I'd say 85% of the Captain America run. So my wife and I almost have all the we stopped reading a lot in the last few years with Dan Slott's run, but at that time we probably had around 90% of the Amazing Spider-Man run as well. So that tells you how much somebody's put you off. If you had that much and you were collecting the whole set that you stopped collecting, that's my wife. That pissed her off. So this next slide, I think is very telling, and I don't want to step on your toes. I want you to share what your findings were here.
Um, it's not really a findings. I think this is common knowledge. It's on Bleeding Cool. They just don't advertise it right.
Mhm.
So so people judge the success of a certain issue by how many print runs it has. I think we discussed this earlier a little bit.
Right.
Like it went to second print. It was obviously a success. And in most cases that is, but a lot of I tried to do research on second prints, but it's a lot of nonsense really, because
Mhm.
most of Marvel's second prints are variant second prints. They
Right.
won't they very rarely go to second print. And in this case, the lenticular variants were the ones that went to second print. They won't say it's that. They'll say it's the artist who did the lenticular cover second print. But if you look that up, it's the lenticular. The normal covers did not go to second print. Probably because you had to order the normal cover, a certain number of the normal covers relative to a past issue to get the lenticulars. Right. And I think that's the third bullet point. Yeah.
Just in case for anybody that was joining late and you don't know what the guest here today is, Comic Chemist. He put together, I just want to give him another shout out. He put together this information in this slideshow for us to discuss today. And later on after this video, I'm going to put a link to his YouTube channel in the info bar as well. So definitely check it back later and give him a follow. He's giving lots of awesome information like this on his channel. And he's got some great content coming up as well.
We're working on that.
Well, I said coming up. Yes. So we've come up with some conclusions based on all this data. So notice we've looked at the social media of some of these writers, and we've seen some successful and some less successful. And we seem to see that there is some particular correlations with a lot of political tweets tends to have lower sales. Now, we're not saying that's the only factor, but there does seem to be a trend with that that might have an impact. We're also seeing that the numbers are not indicating that that whole milkshake fiasco helped Marvel in any way whatsoever. Matter of fact, it probably didn't. That I'm just showing my take so that so October units shipped numbers for Captain Marvel in America are significantly higher than those of September. We mentioned that, and we tend to believe it's because of the lenticular variant, correct?
Yeah, that probably shouldn't have a question mark. That should have like an exclamation point or
well,
3.
No, I like but I like it. Let people think for themselves. We show them the data. Maybe they say, you know what, that's just lenticular was just a little bump. It was because of that. Let them decide for their own.
Good point. And yes, be skeptical. Skepticism in moderation is very good for coming up with your own opinions, worldviews, developing arguments.
Right. And one of the things that does support our argument that it did not help overall, we also seen with the ASM, which Dan Slott was a big proponent in pushing under the milkshake malarkey, and the post-lenticular issue sold similar to its previous issue. So it didn't see any increase. Actually, I think it was a little less it sold. And Miss Marvel's lenticular issue has not released and has not seen an increase in units shipped as well. So we're not seeing any nothing to be super joyous about on the Marvel front yet. Correct me if I'm wrong or add any of your thoughts there. I don't want to speak for you.
I think you covered it pretty well. The issue after ASM's lenticular was bad, so couldn't have been an increase. Had to have been a special cover. Ms. Marvel hasn't had a lenticular, and it hasn't increased. And the other ones are just higher, probably because of the special cover.
Computer Bots asks you a question. He said, "The Comic Chemist, how long did it take you to find all this information?"
Like everything. If you're talking about everything, it's all available on comiccron.com. I just copy pasted, organized it, put it into Excel, graphed it with my $80 Origin knockoff.
and using the functions and things on Excel are a savior for that stuff.
Yes, but, functions are great.
And how about the YouTube? Not YouTube. I'm sorry, the Twitter stuff though, because you did a lot of Twitter research. I think he's talking about that as well.
It might take I don't know how long. Maybe like 30 minutes to get all the tweets down, and then another 10 or 15 to get the pie chart up. Mm-hmm. But it can be a bit not mind numbing, because is this politics? Is this miscellaneous? Is this promotion? Is this a fan thing? Mm-hmm. Does this news site count as a fan, or is it more like secondary type promotion? Things like that. March
Hare also he said thank you to you for compiling this information.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm a nerd and a data nerd too, so I like doing this type of thing.
Now, when you say you date a nerd, does this nerd also read comic books?
Oh, I'm a data nerd.
Oh, a data nerd. I'm sorry, I misheard.
I'm engaged to an accountant.
Ah, so another numbers
Oh,
nerd.
maybe, yeah, maybe that's right.
Does that nerd read comic books as well?
No, I'm trying to get her into it, but
Okay, let
eh,
me ask the people in the chat, what comic book series should he use to get his, you said fiance?
yeah, fiance.
Congratulations on that. His
Thank
fiance to
you.
start reading comics. Yeah. What should he have? I probably might hear. Well, I would say if it was the 80s or something, it'd be Iron Man. For some reason, all the ladies' gateway, it seems like, was Iron Man. Correct me if I'm wrong, ladies. All right, Donna Troy said Sandman. She's usually got really good taste in stuff. Rose Garrett said Gwenpool. Okay.
I do like Gwenpool meme character type stuff.
You know, I think Gwenpool's a good book too. Well, Donna, right after I say that, Donna says it's a girl book. Hey. So, Man of Action said Old Avengers or Secret Wars. Comic Kid said Ultimate Spidey 1 through 160. You know, I think that's a great choice too.
Oh yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man was pretty good.
Yeah.
Spider
Oh,
Girl.
Donna then says I don't like Sandman. Oh, okay.
Spider Girl from Nerd Wonder.
Oh,
Thank you.
Spider Girl was fantastic. Yeah, we geeked out on a video on that. Sporkman Studios said Constantine. And Donna Troy says she agrees with Constantine. So that's going to give you some of the Mystic DC stuff. I would double on Spider Girl. I think Spider Girl was great.
Also very affordable for
Yeah,
back issues.
absolutely. I love comics, said Sandman. That'd be Engeltine. Tell him 29 said maybe find out by some of the things she likes in character. Okay, that's a pretty good point. Bone. Yeah, but I like reading Bone to my kids.
Oh, Bone. Okay.
Mhm.
Power Girl. Yeah, boy. Wait, MC. What's MC2?
Spider Girl is in the MC2 universe. It was an
Oh,
alternate
okay.
universe. There was
Okay.
like A Next and things like that in that.
Yes. Daughter of Peter Parker, that kind of thing.
Nerd Wonder mentioned Chew. Cleveland Brown said Squirrel Girl. You know he's screwing with us there.
Hey, Squirrel Girl had one good issue.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm probably gonna lose subs for this, my very few subs, but there's an issue where she actually talks about and makes jokes about computer science. It's like a dream sequence, and then she teaches you how to count in binary on your hands or on your fingers. You can count to 35. Or no, is it
You don't have
31?
to agree with everybody all the time. That's perfectly fine. Matter of fact, I'm enjoying the Defenders series right now, and most people don't like it from what I hear.
Oh, I thought like pacing wise, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. You know, I don't I wouldn't say it's the best comic I've read, but I've enjoyed it. I didn't hate Luke Cage's series right now. I don't like the art, and I think it's I don't say I wouldn't recommend buying it. I'd give it like a C. The artwork was like, it just didn't sell it well. It's nothing fantastic. I didn't hate it though, like a lot of people did. So other on our other conclusion slide too as well, we had lenticular variants are the reason for inflated sales numbers. Nostalgia pandering, I think that's a very good point. It's arguable that revenue and shipments are up since the Make Mine milkshake, because remember too, a lot were shipped free and pushed on to them with only the cost of shipping to the stores.
Mm-hmm.
Events like Marvel Legacy and Generations also help in Marvel's revenue because those tend to give a bump in sales, even though there is a little bit of decline overall in those large events. And Marvel's Milkshake did not bring the boys to the yard.
And girls, there's female comic fans too.
And that's what I was wondering too. I wondered, did it bring girls to the yard? And we know it didn't really probably bring the guys, but did it have a different impact on the ladies? That'd be a lot harder to figure that one out.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know.
yeah. So once again, definitely Comic Chemist did this hard work. Congratulate him. Give him props. Please check out his channel. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your channel? Tell these people. Let's help you out here.
About my channel, I guess I just started looking into the claims of comic skaters. One being, sales are going down, Marvel's in decline, social media is a driving factor in this downward trend. And I started off looking at Spider-Man and Batman. I did a re-upload of that video without the Twitter charts and didn't get any attention. Once I started doing Twitter, uh, the Twitter analysis, the channel got some bumps and subs, and I'm now looking into what I deem the Social Justice League authors that um, are criticized as being too political or divisive on their social media. I'm working on Mark Waid right now in the Avengers and his Avengers run. I think I'm going to compare that to the current Justice League run. Um, yeah, it's a bit of data. I wasn't sure if I wanted to get Teen Titans versus Champions either because I think he's on that book too. But
Yeah, I know he's
yeah,
on Champions. So I know we have that one.
so
So,
yeah,
what do you think of his Captain America run right now?
Captain America, the first issue, I that was disgusting. Like, what were you trying to say there?
Okay. I think I give it like a C, C plus, but I've been
Yeah,
reminded I probably had some happy goggles on because I was so sick of Hydra Cap that I gave it a better
good
review than
point.
it deserved.
And Hydra Cap still exists. That's what's weird.
Yeah.
It's like I thought you were just gonna change him, but no, you've created two. That there was so much wrong with that event. The second issue was good though.
I
I
haven't
feel
read it yet.
yeah, I recommend that you read it.
Okay. I figured I'd give it a shot, but I tell you, separating the work from the person right now in that book is very hard for me.
Yeah,
I,
creator from creation is a very hard separation to make.
I Love Comics said Mark Waid is a teddy bear. You're just stirring it up now, buddy.
He does need a hug, that's for sure.
He definitely does need a hug. I think the Nerd Wonder's right on that one. Most definitely. All right. Well, is there anything else you wanted to share? We've been going on we're getting close to 2 hours, but was there anything you wanted to talk about before we close?
Uh, I mean, if there's any questions in the chat, I think we could take those.
All right, excellent. I didn't want to throw you under the bus. Anybody in the chat have any questions that you would like to ask the comics chemist? By all means.
Why disgusting on the Mark Waid one? Um, it seems way too punch a Nazi for me. I feel like they did. I feel like the entire Secret Empire thing was that, and it wasn't a good way to start off. I think. And then of course the strong protect the weak controversy.
Yeah. That's one of the issues I had too. Of all the cast of villains and everything they could have chosen or created a new one, they went right back to the well with the Nazi again. Have they not used it enough?
Hmm. How many
Let's see.
comics do I have and read by the Comic Kid?
Uh,
So let's see. I right now, well, to be honest, I read everything, whether or not that's allowed by law is questionable. But I buy Spider Gwen, Gwenpool, Thanos, Dark Knight's Metal. What else did I buy? I've been buying Guardians of the Galaxy because I'm a huge Adam Warlock fan, and he's coming back. So
yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I noticed that you're a huge Adam Warlock fan, and so he is coming back then?
yes, for this Infinity Countdown event, yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy number 150 that's coming out in January
Okay.
is apparently the return of Adam Warlock.
Nostalgia and criticism crud. The tweets are going fast. The chats are going fast. I missed it. I have to go up and look. I'm using that my tablet. Let's see here. There we go. What do you think CB Sablinski will bring once he gets in? What do you think he will change within 2 years?
I actually have no idea. When they announced he was the guy that was replacing Axel Alonso.
Mhm.
I didn't know who he was. I mean, I heard all of your commentaries on who he was, and I'm pretty optimistic. I don't know if he's just gonna whip the current authors into shape or he's gonna clean house. I don't really have an opinion because I'm trying to be as numbers oriented as possible while still having some fun reading.
I almost wonder if he has something to do with Dan Slott being so silent on Twitter right now. That's a big
It's it's
speculation.
it's possible. Will Things Be Better for Marvel a Year from Now by Rose? Um, I think so. I like to think optimistically about Spider-Man because he was Iron Man for a little while, being a billionaire, and now he's not. I guess the only real problem is I don't know why he's with Mockingbird of all people. When at the same time Mockingbird was trying to get back with Clint in her own series, the Feminist Agenda shirt series.
Grand Comics said, okay, so I wanted to use Frugal's voice to amplify my love to you guys. So I'm going to do that for him. He said, but this will have to do. I love you. So there you go, guys. I hope that worked for you. Let's see. Well, Eclectic, you missed a lot. We went over a lot of numbers. So if you like numbers and charts, definitely go back and watch the video when it's up. We'll keep it up. Let's see here.
March Hare, my favorite Marvel character is Adam Warlock. Favorite DC character? That's a tough one. Um, hmm. I like the Metal series, and I really like the Dawnbreaker, but he's probably not going to be around for that long since it's a special event. Comic Kid, yes, I realized that Guardians of the Galaxy was canceled with 150, but I think they're doing some Infinity Countdown event thing. I don't, I don't know if they're gonna bring back an ongoing series for that, but you know, my favorite character's coming back, so I want to buy the issues.
Nostalgia and Criticism says, numbers question. Once this next Chromicron update comes out, what would you think you will see changed?
I don't think anything's really gonna change. I mean,
No.
things have been going unless there's a number, unless they renumber or some super special first appearance, death, or happening happens. There shouldn't be any bumps.
They
Ms.
might get
Marvel,
some bumps. Is the Legacy going to be on there? Would that be any of those be in that month? If so, they
I
might be a
guess yeah, the
small
Ms.
bump.
Marvel lenticular probably.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't see anything drastic yet. With CB coming in, it's too soon to make that kind of make big changes. I think it's going to be a slow climb if they have a climb.
Yeah, maybe Guardians 150 in January might have a bump, but I don't know how many Warlock fans are out there. I think that's a pretty niche character.
Now, Nerd Wonder is a big Spider-Man fan, and she says ending one more day would save everything. So,
Yeah, I'd like to get a Twitter campaign called One Less Day. How you would fix Spider-Man. I think
oh,
that
don't
would
get
be
her
fun.
started. She
Well,
will tell you how to fix
I
Spider-Man.
have a Warlock related way.
Oh
So
yeah, well share. What
Warlock
is your
had the
Warlock
Skull
way?
Gem and was dealing with Mephisto in his little hell. He was apparently more powerful because of all the souls there. So just get Warlock the Soul Gem, send him down there, strong arm Mephisto, fix things.
The comic kid said too, could you do a video on Guardian of the Galaxy? I want to know if sales were the reason or the event.
I can probably do that after my Mark Wade one. I
Look at
mean,
that. See,
it's gonna hurt me to do it because, yeah, Gary Duggan is kind of political on Twitter. I follow him.
okay. Look at that. See, we're getting people giving you shout outs, telling you what to do already. The Nerd Wonder said, comic chemistry, I love you even more now. Yeah, all you have to do is side with her on that one more day thing. You get all kinds of hugs from her. That's for sure.
I remember trying to get back into Spider-Man in 2009, and my dad had like the One More Day issues on the table, and I read them before he did, and I'm like, oh, well, that just happened.
Yeah, I remember it. My wife hated that too. Absolutely hated it. So, but she also didn't like the time where they made it out like MJ was dead. So that didn't go over well with her either.
Yeah, I don't know why she's with Stark Industries right now. She has no stock there.
Well, she'll probably have an STD now by the time she's out of that book.
Well, I mean, Tony's been elsewhere or nowhere. somewhere.
Watch it. She has some kind of sexually transmitted computer virus
That could be possible.
from AI loving. That's terrible. Shame on me.
I mean, the Ultron monstrosity is out there somewhere too, so it could be a threat. AI STDs, you know.
Yeah. She's got a virus. Oh, the comic said, what? Well, because, he's been AI Tony. Let's see here. The comics kid, because she the only feminist that the Marvel fans love, and they can't make one of their own. Oh, she's talking MJ there. Okay.
Is she the only one though?
That they like and true.
She's a strong, independent woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who else is like that? I guess there's more MJ fans than anybody else.
Well, what about Storm though? I mean, she's pretty loved by the fans, right?
Yeah. I guess I haven't.
I loved Mockingbird until they SJW'd the crap out of her too.
Yeah, I haven't read her older stuff, so I don't really have a nice opinion about her.
I loved her in the Avengers West Coast and West Coast Avengers. They just flipped the name. Let's see here. Anything else? Storm was a brawler, but not a feminist. Okay. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Don't give them too much work to do, though.
I didn't realize they had MJ Marvel Legends.
I didn't either. Was not aware. They tried to make Mockingbird the new MJ, but can't even compete. Once again, I liked Mockingbird. I really did. I just don't like what they did to her in this series. Same thing with, as I said, with Captain Marvel. I used to really like that character too. Nerd Wonder asked, why is Storm so cool? That's a good question.
Let's see. Storm is so she can control the weather.
She's powerful. I mean, she's a flawed character too. She wasn't a Mary Sue. She had claustrophobia and things too. She was just an actual character.
Had a pretty troubled background, didn't she?
Yeah. I enjoyed it.
Mockingbird. Yeah, she doesn't really have any emotions, does she?
No. Cleveland Brown said that she's a great second in command behind Cyclops because Cyclops didn't do nothing wrong.
Oh, here we go.
Man of Action said, ask him about the next analytics. How long do you give Marvel to stay above water? I'll let you have that one before I run my mouth.
Are they above water?
Yeah, technically.
Let's see. I have to defend my PhD thesis on Monday, so I'd probably have a video out after that week. So, wish me luck on that.
Oh, yeah, so just because if anyone goes, these people don't know math, you just heard him. He has his PhD thesis Monday.
Chemistry, which is a little different than math.
Well, you should have a lot of math in chemistry, though.
Yeah, there's a bit of math.
So, in my field, there's a lot of math all the time, too. So, quite a bit. Comic Kid has finals coming up as well.
Good luck on that.
All right, guys. Well, I guess we're good to wrap it up. Thank you since the questions aren't piling in. Thanks you anymore. We answered a bunch. Thank you for taking the time to watch. I know it was a numbers kind of thing. Just think you tuned in to see a bunch of graphs and numbers on a Friday night. How cool is that?
And we kept 30 people here. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and usually you'll get a lot more after the fact too. Because how many people sometimes at the time can't make it. Sporkman Studios said thank you, comic and Frugal. So thanking us for this. You're very welcome. You're enjoyed doing this. It's nice to be able to nerd out on numbers. And once again, this was his first time on a live stream. I think he did great.
Yeah, and you're a very good facilitator and a live stream partner.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm only as good as the people around me. You guys all make me look good.
But if I'm good as the people, if I'm the same way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we are going to stop this broadcast. So thank you again for joining us. Once again, I will add his information for his video later in the info bar. Definitely check out his videos. They're very informative, and he's got a lot of great stuff coming up. So until next time, keep it frugal.
Keep it frugal.